survivors no longer envy the dead. These architects forever enjoy every glass steel. I watch the efforts of our species dance away in the radioactive wind. Civilization retreated by millennia. All of human history brought to dust. Our cities, now scorched black mausoleums, serve as a reminder there could be no victory at war. Earth is the answer to the question of our mortality. With resolute defiance, we choose to grasp at the delicate thread of life. My son, the gift of survival is yours. Please, may you never submit. There will be more.
This is it. We are on our own. The air is clear. Welcome home. We're headed straight for oblivion, but we're gonna make it. Whatever it takes. I just wanna be with you. Lost love and revelation. Heavy rain diffuse the sun. Look up and watch it all away. We all know how this ends. Up above, the skyline's drifting in and out around us. But I know you're here. Can we rebuild everything? I can see the angel dust is raining down upon us. So I know we'll be safe. We can rise to the fire. All roads paved in crushed up skulls. Ride with me to the end of the world. We're headed straight for oblivion. Just keep believing we go again, and we'll fly right through. I just wanna be with you. Lost love and revelation. Heavy rain diffuse the sun. Look up and watch it all away. We all know how this ends. Up above, the skyline's drifting in and out around us. But I know you're here. Can we rebuild everything? I can see the angel dust is raining down upon us. So I know we'll be safe. We can rise to the fire. There's a void in my head. There's a shiver in her breath as she slowly closes the other eye. Time stood still. We danced on broken glass. Yeah, I'm afraid nothing when I'm with you. Hell can't stop us if we stay together.
Herzlich willkommen zurück auf Schalke America. I'm your host, Richard Carmen. Joining me, as always, co-host Jack Mangan. Jack, how we doing?
Doing well. Joining you from the black void behind me, as opposed to your well-lit
The yin and the yang, the yin and the yang. Yeah, it's kind of how Schalke has been lately, right? Sometimes good, sometimes bad. A little bit of both this weekend, I think. Yeah, it's not a victory Monday. Kind of has a little bit of feeling that just because we had good second half, some good positivity.
Echoes of the famous 4-4 again, because today's the anniversary of
It
that.
is the
right?
anniversary.
The 7-year anniversary. So I thought I'd mention that, but yeah, certainly nowhere near that level. Much more depressing result, but at least a positive fight back at the end there.
Different league altogether, too, right?
Yes, sir.
I am drinking as a result of having a little bourbon tonight. How about you? A little whiskey.
Not at the moment, but
Yep.
may have partaken earlier. So good to
There
go.
you go. There you go. Obviously, got the Hamburg game to talk about. But first, I do want to get into, because our Discord group is awesome, and they sent some questions last time. Didn't get to them. We answered some of them, but not all of them. And so I wanted to kind of get to them right now and get it out of the way, just so I don't forget again. First question came from Eric, and heading into this game against Hamburg, we had a 5-game stretch, a gauntlet against top 10 teams. And he says, realistically, after international break, how many points do you see us getting over the next 5 games? Now, spoiler alert, we got a point against Hamburg. But the next 4 games after that, we got Kaiserslautern, who are 9th. We got Paderborn, who are top of the table. We got Dusseldorf, who are 7th, I think. And Elfersberg, which is 3rd in the table. So, of these remaining 4 games, Jack, how do you foresee them going point-wise?
Yeah, it's tough to predict. As you said, in the middle of sort of a 5-game gauntlet here. After the international break, we're playing top half teams one week after the other, so pretty tough stretch. I'd be surprised if we got more than maybe like 2 points out of the next 4. I'm not really expecting us to win any of these games, and maybe we can get another couple of results like we did against Hamburg and potentially snag a draw somewhere. Hopefully we do get a win, and hopefully I get surprised a little bit, but feel like things overall still have been somewhat sketchy under the new manager. Not a ton of optimism against some of these opponents that have been operating on a much higher level than us recently.
No, I think I would agree with that. The best stretch we've had is over the last 3 games with the new coach, and arguably one of the best halves we had this last game against Hamburg. But you're right; it's a tough stretch here. Shoot, man, Kaiserslautern game at home.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll go out on a limb. I'll say we're gonna win Kaiserslautern at home.
Okay, all right.
So if I'll tell you what, I'll say 4 points from the next 4. I'll double it from 2.
Okay, all right. I like it.
Because Kaiserslautern is
Up and down.
is us with a slightly better defense
That's fair.
so far.
That's fair.
Our home and away form has been relatively the same, so it's not that I think home form gives us much of an advantage or whatnot. But I'll say we'll snipe the 9th place team in Kaiserslautern, and the rest are going to be tough. What do you think?
I think I'm with you. I'm feeling that Kaiserslautern game at home. I think we could get a win there. It'll have to be a really good game by us for 90 minutes. Paderborn, I really don't. I'd be surprised if we got a draw to that. I'd be shocked, honestly. But that's a good team there. They don't give up many goals, so I'm not looking to get any points there. Dusseldorf, another difficult opponent. It's at home. If we get a draw there, I'd be happy. And Elfersberg, man, that's another good team there. But I think we get a draw there. So I'm going to say 5 points. I think we got a win against Kaiserslautern, a draw against Dusseldorf and Elfersberg. That's really being positive there. Optimistic. But that's my take there. So yeah, we're fairly even on that regard. The Brito says, have you seen any clear way the manager wants to play? And before this Hamburg match, I wasn't so sure. But yeah, do you see a style of play now from Kies van Wonderen after a handful of games, or not quite yet?
Not that I'm the tactics guy that you'd come to normally anyway for this kind of question, but no, I mean, I think I feel not particularly strong in answering it just because of the number of games that I missed under his tenure so far with various streaming issues and whatnot. Because I feel like I haven't even actually seen the entirety of his tenure at Schalke. Yeah. So I'm a little bit more sketched out on it. But I think we've seen it change of shape to some extent for the most part. I think it seems as though he's been trying to keep us a little bit more narrow and compact against the ball. I've seen that pretty consistently. The only time that's an issue is when they try to get down into the wide areas against us, because he also likes to have the fullbacks relatively, particularly Merkin, high in possession. Bullet's a little bit more part of the build-up, I think, in the earlier phases, and so Merkin gets a little bit further up the field. But I feel like very compact and narrow against the ball, and when they get into wide areas against us is kind of where the issue is. I think a decent mix so far with him between building out of the back, but then not being afraid to play long balls over the top when they're available. So it's not always like Hecarin doing that from like goal kick situations. He does it a little bit more in transitional moments, like not when there's a stoppage, like when he'll tend to boot it up a little bit more in those situations. Yeah, and I think there's just like certain pressing triggers that are a little bit different at times as well. More obviously towards like the wings and funneling people out wide. But I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, no, it's not too dissimilar from that. I think the pressing triggers are different than what we saw in the Gerrards, but thus far it seems fairly. It works. It works a lot. At least for the last 3 games, it's working better. We saw that at Hamburg, caused a lot of turnovers. Regensburg as well, and all 3 of them faced a little bit of pressure from our pressure and caused turnovers there. I have noticed also the narrowness of the team, especially defensively. We have been more disciplined defensively. I know we gave up 2 goals against Hamburg, which we'll get to, but for the most part, we haven't really given much. We've been fairly clean back in defense, and I mean even Kaminsky's playing well at the moment for the most part. And so defensively, we seem better than we did under Gerrards. It's not as free flowing back there where teams just go and score goals, boatloads of goals. But it's also affected our offensive gameplay, and I think the game against Hamburg, we finally got to see a little bit of that offense starting to click. Amin Younes is finally getting to the fold here. They threw a little wrinkle in there that I wasn't expecting with Bachmann, which we'll get into. But even the game against Regensburg, we saw a little bit better on the attack, some more ideas in terms of the front 4. We knew the front 4 are good, for us. But they seem like to be clicking in that last game against Regensburg. They even got a couple goals, I think, in the friendly against Aachen. But yeah, it's still to be determined what the attack is going to look like. We know there's cohesion. It's got to let them, let the reins go and let them play. And I've noticed that the youngsters, whatever they're doing with the youngsters, and I'm talking about Gruger and Bullet, it seems to be working. They seem like a nice fit with the team. Gruger doesn't seem out of his place. He seems confident, and Bullet's getting better and better every game, it seems like. So yeah, it's still early to see, but you're seeing a little bit here and there, little glimpses. Didn't like the first 45, obviously, with Hamburg, but
no, there seems to be more structure and more discipline, and I'm not entirely sure that's always been a positive, particularly with the impact I think it had in possession and offensively the initial couple of weeks, where it seemed like some of the maybe this is an indictment of Gerrards to some extent, but it felt like some of the better moments offensively under him were when we were a little bit more creative and improvisational and transition, and people had freedom to kind of, there was some really nice link up play that happened. Yeah. Stuff that's less, sort of designed and more just sort of that. And I felt like some of that went away when Wunderman got appointed initially. Yeah. In terms of, I think maybe more like positional discipline in terms of areas of the pitch when you're in possession and not as much like whatever. But then I think that sort of simultaneously happened sort of in conjunction with, I feel like, sort of the emergence or more rise of Younes in the offense over recent weeks. But I think it's actually kind of balanced some of that out because he's so good. He's such a tactician. It's, helping. Some of these moves are just, they don't get created without him, essentially. So, yeah, I don't know. I hope I can catch a larger majority of the streams going forward because I missed like 2 or 3 weeks in a row at one point. But
at least the next one's on ESPN Plus too with Kaiserslautern.
Yeah. So. For me, jury's out on him overall. But yeah, this is also a tough stretch in which to judge him against, the next couple opponents here. So
the one other thing I noticed over the last couple of games is he put Paul Seguin more in like a libero type where he's a little bit more freedom, got more creativity that he can use that he has. and it's worked. He seemed to be feeding off of that and kind of being a catalyst in that midfield. It seems like over the last 2 games at least. It's small sample size, but a long way to go still. So, last question.
He is in different positions sometimes. Like there's times he's dropping into the back 3, like in possession help there. There's times where he's out wide more. So yeah,
He's got the freedom to roam, right, and go where he wants. I think so. And it's working. Last question. I think it's hard to answer, but it comes from T. He says, some realistic transfers for the winter that's clearly needed, especially in defense. I think that's hard to say because, one, Manga doesn't let his cards loose, so you don't have any idea one bit who's going to come. But I think if you look position-wise, I think center backs has been the issue, certainly depth-wise. And then from there, I don't know, maybe at this point, maybe it is a striker you need or something, or an attacking midfielder or something like that, because we saw when Moore went out, Yunus had to slide on the left-hand side, so maybe they need some kind of attacking help in some way. But in terms of personnel and actual names, I can't give it to you because Mang will never give it to us, and I don't want to hope for somebody that's never going to come.
Yeah, I feel like I was able to give much more useful advice in that regard when we were in the first division. The pool of players that we can afford at this point and stuff, like I have no idea who half these people are and where they're coming from, and I'm not watching these games. So yeah, I mean, so if you're looking for specific sensible transfers, it would require me to go into like a scouting database and try to search by various player profiles and whatnot based on what I think Wonderman's trying to do, but which maybe I can do if I still have access to some of the stuff I used to have. But
what was that scouting site called? I forget. It was Wise or something. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, there's Y-Scout, which we had at one point. There's a different one that's more of like a player profile. I actually forget the name of it that I think I'm still subscribed to. I can pop back in there. I haven't been in there in a while, but yeah, who knows? I mean, defensively, I think ideally that would be where we want to reinforce things because we probably don't want to be playing like Schallenberg and Kaminsky as our center back pairing. Like, not that they've necessarily done like terribly there, but like I think you look at that and you go like, surely we can have better. I mean, like you look at like how good like Bullett's been since he came in, right? Like you wish we could get like a player for the back line in the center back position that you felt kind of that confident about, even though Bullett's like a youngster. Yeah, I think like him and Geiger are they're just like afterthoughts at this point, like in a good way. Like you expect them to be in the lineup. You're not really worried about them being in the lineup. They don't draw too much negative attention to them for the most part when they're in the lineup. Those kind of things. So I wish we kind of had more of that in the center back. But speaking of which, is there any word on like Cisse and what's going on with him at the moment?
Yeah, so the press conference leading up to the game, they asked about Cisse, and he said like he's back. He went with Mali. The coach said like he got his first minutes, but he's pretty play with Mali. But he said that he's not there physically yet. He said that he's getting into game shape. He's back with the U23s under Norbert Elgert, and hoping that he gets him and Fimple get him ready to get back to the first team. So they're saying it's just a physicalness thing, or he needs to get his physical activity back, or he's not in shape. He's just not sharp enough yet. So he expects him back and be featured in the team, but who knows if it's just blowing smoke or actually it's legit. So we won't know until we actually see him, possibly get on the bench and whatnot. So I don't know. It's questionable. But anyway, we have a game we got to talk about. Rundown for tonight. We obviously talk about the Hamburg match. Talk about our 4 takeaways. A fallout after this game. Not for Schalke. Then talk about some, keep talking points from the game, and then obviously talk about Kaiserslautern and get out of here. Anthony's in the house. It says, look how Richard and Jack Schalke look more entertaining than Milan versus Juventus. Yeah, anything looked better than that game. But looking into the game in hand, Hamburg against Schalke, obviously 2-2 was the result. Lineups were interesting in this one. Obviously, I did a briefing before the game, and I said some guys you got to look out for. Fabio Balde, who wasn't even featured in this one, but I said Koningsdorfer is a guy you got to watch out for. He's kind of picked up the void since Robert Glatzel got injured, and then as well David Selke, right? David Selke is a known commodity for us in German football. Is a guy with a lot of potential, can score goals. So both those guys who kind of lead the line were guys we're always going to have to watch. It's no coincidence that Hamburg's performances have slumped since Glatzel left, right? They're the best striker in the league, goes out. But these two guys in the front kind of been trying to lead the way. 7 goals between them. Well, now 8 goals between them since he's been gone. Those are my main guys I was looking for. Anybody else you're looking out there with Hamburg heading to this?
No, I mean, I think it was. I mean, I know it's easy to say this in hindsight, but I think it really is a lot of the guys that ended up being the more impactful players. So players like Richter, players like Königsdorfer, Selke as well. I mean, Selke didn't have a particularly good game. I didn't feel like. I thought he was actually not super impactful for the most part. But Königsdorfer is just funny because I think he's one he's one that like the real FIFA manager mode players have known about for a while. Like he's one of those like young guys that's like highly rated for like a number of years, and so it's always interesting to kind of watch their development. Yeah, it's interesting to watch their development over time. So Königsdorfer is somebody I'm familiar with, and yeah, unfortunately got up close and personal with our goal in this one too. So no, but I think that's a fair shout out overall.
And they got a pretty decent goalkeeper in Hoyer Fernandez as well. Our lineup was the more talking point for me because obviously we saw Kaminsky and Schallenberg in defense once again in front of Heckeren, Merkin and Bullet, no change there. Seguin, Kruger, still normal here. All of a sudden you got Bachmann in the midfield there with Yunus on the left. Yunus is filling in for Moore. Yunus is usually in the middle, Moore out left. Moore got injured leading up to the game, and so Yunus got slid out to the left, still on the right, and Carmen up top. So Bachmann in the middle there, I wasn't sure how this is going to work because Bachmann never makes runs forward, and if he's going to be the 10 in this lineup in this pairing, like I wasn't sure how that was going to work. I mean, that was what were your thoughts when you saw Bachmann inserted in the lineup?
So Bachmann Turner overdrive. Pleasantly surprised by this.
Yeah.
So here's what I'll say to counter what you just said though. Early in the season, when we were seeing like Seguin and Bachmann in that midfield too, before Gruger was
Bachmann was up
inserted. Yeah. Bachmann was surprisingly the one that we saw actually getting forward more often, which was kind of the reverse of what I expected it to be to some extent. I thought he was actually okay in this game in this position. I thought he linked up fairly well. Like he seemed to be trying to like make runs in around the final third, get on the ball, and was looking for his teammates. And then we'll talk about the impact he had in the second half too. But like decent overall. Yeah, pleasantly surprised. And Yunus, I mean, like I understand why we want him central for the most part, but him popping out wide and then like with Merkin on the overlap, that's the situation in the final third, which is really nice because Yunus can cut inside on his right as Merkin's drawing people up. So that was it was an interesting wrinkle. I think Tobias Moore's obviously played very well this season. So I mean, I don't think any of us are going to complain about him being in the starting lineup, but yeah, dude, nice job from Bachmann in this one.
I couldn't agree more. I thought he did a really good job in this one. I think the big difference I noticed with the way that Yunus played on the left with Merkin versus if Moore was there, it seems like Moore isn't as high risk when it comes to his chance opportunities. So he's less likely to give the ball away as opposed to Yunus. Yunus is always going to take that chance. He's that guy who sees something, he's going to take it. And half the time he looks brilliant. Other times his turnover goes the other way. And so Merkin's that kind of guy as well. And so like Merkin is less successful than Yunus is. So you got two guys there just like, you got a chance to get a counterattack. You saw that a couple times in the game where one of those guys gave up a turnover and went the other way. And like, oh shit, here we go.
No, I agree. I mean, so like I always talk about like, Yunus just visually passes the eye test as being technically much more sound than a lot of the other guys. And the counter to that would be like, okay, well, if that's the case, why does he like sometimes have less than 80% pass completion? Like in this game would be an example of that, where there's other people that were a little bit more efficient on the ball. And it's because he tries stuff that other people don't try, and it's because he sees stuff that other people don't see, I think sometimes. So like, yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to like paper over all of his missed passes, whatever as that necessarily, but no, I agree with you that he will go for things that other people won't go for, and sometimes can make a play happen in a quick window that a lot of other times would pass people by before they recognize that it's there. Yeah.
And I think the teammates are starting to understand that because sometimes it seems like he is way ahead of them, where he sees something but they don't even see it. They should have made a run. He didn't. He saw it. They didn't. And whatever. But they're starting to catch on now. Eric Glukov, good to see you here. So yeah, the game I thought interesting game. First 30 minutes, I thought we did well in terms of we knew Hamburg's gonna be difficult at their home, but we neutralized any big chances I think that they really would have had. I thought we did a good job with the press, causing turnovers. They didn't really have too many great scoring chances. We had no scoring chances, no shots in that first 30 minutes. But I thought it was a pretty even game at that point. I felt comfortable in the first half hour, first 28 minutes. Did you have that same feeling, or did you get another feeling from that first how the game was starting out for us?
No, that's roughly how I felt. I think there were a couple of moments where I thought there were sort of flashes of some of the mistakes that were going to be coming a little bit. I noticed that, but in general, no, I thought we were, I thought we were staying pretty tight to them for the most part, and we looked in the game, and yeah, I mean, I think they definitely had the better start and the better first half overall for sure, even before, some of the goals were scored and whatnot. But I thought it was reasonably competitive, and once again, going into this 5-game gauntlet, you were just concerned about were we going to get played off the field pretty consistently in some of these. And I didn't feel like we did in the first half, despite even what the scoreline ended up being. So,
Yeah, it's the two big fears are getting played off the field or lapses in judgment, lapses of concentration that cause chaos. And we got the latter. We have this in almost every game this year where we just, for whatever reason, we switch off. And this happened in the 29th minute where Kaminsky makes a silly foul top of the box. Really shouldn't have fouled Richter, whoever the heck he fouled there in front of the box. Maybe it was Poreba, and sets up a free kick. Richter sets up the free kick. You see Gruger's laying on the ground. The Heckering's kind of setting up the wall there. Shot comes off. You see the goal initially go in off the free kick. You're like, okay, great goal. Can't do anything about it. And then you watch the replay, and you're like, Heckering's trying to cheat over to the right side where the wall is instead of he got caught and Richter made him pay for it. It wasn't even that great angle or a great spot where he put it because it was almost in the middle. So he should have been there. At least that's my gripe. I mean, what are your thoughts on how that goal went in?
So the first thing I'll say is that to take a little bit of heat off of Heckering, I think Kaminsky deserves a share of the blame for that because he's the one that concedes the free kick. Yeah. It's a pretty bad position to give a free kick right on the edge of the box centrally, and it's also pretty cheap and kind of like
lazy. It's like a foot out.
It was a dumb foul. Yeah, I mean, like it wasn't like he was diving in to make like a strong play to save something and then just got a little bit wrong. It was a bad foul. So I think Kaminsky deserves part of the blame for the goal. What I'll say for Heckering is like, as they're setting up for the free kick, you hear the commentator go like, he's going to have to really trust his wall. But like the commentator says that before this takes place. And what happens is he doesn't trust his wall. As you said, he's like, oh, I think it's going to go. And he takes a step the wrong way. And look, I'm not saying it's not a good free kick by Marco Richter. It's hit well, got a little curve on it, gets it in, but it's not in the top corner. And I think when you watch the replay, you can see that like in terms of where his hand is, he gets that if he doesn't take that initial step the wrong way that kind of sets him off poorly. And the thing is like, when you're that close, when you're on the edge of the box, it is so difficult to get the ball up and down over the wall. Yeah, maybe you can bend it on the ground around the wall and go in or something like that, but like it is so difficult to get it up and down from that distance. It's difficult in general. How many free kicks go over the bar all the time? And that's even when you got 5 yards from the edge or whatever it is. So yeah, in that situation, I agree with the commentator. Like you really have to, make sure you're defending mostly kind of that open post. And if they get it over the top, you just kind of tip your cap and go like, hey, good job, guy. But so mistake there. And then after they see the replay, the commentator goes, yeah, he really needed to trust his wall more. I'm like, hey, you called it. So, not a great moment from the young keeper, but like I said, Kaminsky didn't help him out there with the setup. It's a tough position.
And now, if you thought that was bad, we go to kick the ball off and decide, hey, let's take the ball all the way back to the goalkeeper and kind of play out from defense. And it was already like sloppy the way they were passing it back to Heckering. A lot of pressure there by Hamburg. Heckering gives the ball to Schallenberg, who thinks he's freaking John Stockton, or I don't know who the hell he's trying to do with a no-look pass back to the keeper, sets up Koningsdorfer perfectly, who just walks around Heckering. I'm not going to blame Heckering on that, and just walks in the goal. And it's like, Schallenberg, what are you doing, man? And I don't want to hate on him too much because he's been pretty good this year. He's been one of our better, more consistent players. But what the hell are you doing? This no-look back pass, like, oh yeah, let me go back here. Like, it wasn't even close. Even if Koningsdorfer wasn't there, it wasn't even close to Heckering. Like, what are you doing, man?
I don't know why I found that as funny as I did. Just the concept though of like Schallenberg as he's going about the match in his head, being like John Stockton and like thinking that to himself is just hilarious. Of all references, just like a '90s basketball reference of all things.
Shows my age.
Yeah, look, it's a little like kind of like it's a little bit cheap as a fan to be like, oh, like you're taught, when you're in, initial stages of football when you're 5 years old, not to kick it back to your key, like across the face of goal. So like, I don't want to be that guy that's like, this is like basic stuff not to do that. But like, it's a bad moment from Schallenberg. He's facing essentially in terms of his body position, like on that play, kind of like the corner flag. Yeah. And then he's trying to make a pass back to his keeper blind. He doesn't really know what's behind him, and he doesn't execute it well. And it's really poor. Koningsdorfer, really good feet, quick touch around Heckering to get around him, and then puts it away. And I mean, like, I don't think the commentator had even finished talking about the previous goal before Hamburg were in and scored the next one. So,
here we go.
Yeah, about as disastrous as a collapse as you can imagine. 27 minutes or so of halfway decent football, and then suddenly you're down 2-0 in the space of like 30 seconds. Absolutely atrocious. And yeah, I was very close to actually turning off the game at that point because I was like, I want to enjoy my Saturday, and this is not like this is obnoxious.
The whole
So,
Discord was like the whole Discord was like that. You know, it's like, oh god, what are we watching here? Like, all the naysayers came out. Yeah, it wasn't a good thing, and it wasn't so much like the back pass. Like, it's fine to make a back pass, but he was like not like you said, not even facing the goalkeeper. Only thing would have been worse if he like did a backheel flick or something to make it even worse, but he didn't do that at least. And he owned up to it, so there's that. I'm not gonna. He doesn't make these mistakes too often, so but it's a bad play. 2-0 down, and you're like, geez, what are we gonna do now? We weren't playing well at that point. Had no shots, I think, in the first half. Really, I was trying to see a response from us. It wasn't much of a response. I didn't see in the rest of that first half. It ended 2-0. I wanted to see how the team would come out in that second half. Obviously, needed to play a lot better. Didn't start out well because I think minutes into the second half, balls bouncing around in our box. Richter does a nice looping ball over the top, finds David Selke by himself. Luckily, Hecker is the only one paying attention to this and jumps out and makes a great save to stop it because it would have been 3-0 at that point. Early in the second half, the game would have been done. He makes a save, and we're like slowly, it seems like we're slowly starting to get into this game. And in the 67th minute or so, we get a set piece, and ball falls to Usasilla, puts the ball away, 2-1. Oh, no, that was after. Excuse me. The Min Yunus goal. Min Yunus scored a goal where you said it perfectly in the Discord. It was like we gifted him 2 goals in the first half, and then they gifted us one right in the second half where we got a ball. I think Bullet was one across it in, hits off a defender, loops in the air. Defender just gives it right to Yunus, just like we did to Kornigsdorfer, and he puts it away. Good for Yunus to get his first goal, and I'm glad we got gifted something. It's Christmas season, Jack, so I guess we're forgiven.
It was the holiday gift exchange. It was.
Oh, gift exchange.
Yeah, look, you need some of those every once in a while. We gave up 2 pretty cheap goals that were not super earned for the most part by them, and so nice to snag one. But yeah, like you said, beginning of the second half was not good, but I think by the time we got to 53rd minute or so, started picking it up, and then I think from that point on we were the clear favorites for most of the rest of the second half. I think we got a lot tighter and quieted things down after they scored their second goal for the remainder of that half, and then after a couple shaky minutes, came out and started looking much better.
It's funny how that goal just seemed to lift our confidence, and we kind of really took over possession-wise. Like, they were dominating possession for the most part of the game up to that point, and then all of a sudden we kind of flipped the script. Obviously, we're trying to get a goal, and so we're going to obviously have more ball, but we did well with it. I think we kept pinning them back. They didn't really have any chances the other way. After that goal happens in the 63rd or 7th or something like that, a set piece happens. Silla puts it in, and then VAR, they look at it, and it's clearly offsides. Correct call, but it's a good sign. It looked like a second goal was coming, and we had that, so it was like, okay, that didn't happen. But they kept pushing. Sometimes that kind of deflate a team, but 74th minute, we talk about Bachmann. Like, you see Seguin again being involved where he sets up the play. He feeds the ball, and I'm watching live. I'm like, oh, that's Karma. He gets the ball from Seguin. I'm like, no, Karma just scored a goal. Like, what just happened? I have to look back at the replay and like, no, it's Jan Bachmann who's up in the attack for those rare moments other than early in the year. And like you said, he had a good game, read that play really beautifully. Seguin found him obviously, and then quick one look pass to Karaman, who feeds it over and he taps it in back there. Of course, Karaman's going to score that goal because that's what he does. And bam, 2-2. Bachmann. It just he deserved that assist because I think the kind of game he had, I was pleasantly surprised by him.
Yeah, I don't want to overstate the Bachmann thing, but it was actually kind of difficult to see on the replay because it cut to a close-up shot of Seguin as he was advancing the ball, so you couldn't see the build-up for the entirety of that play. But a couple seconds before that play started, Bachmann was way more central and very close to Karaman. And you could tell he shoulder checked a couple times to see where Karaman was, and then clearly decided to make an incisive diagonal run away from him that kind of pulled defender attention. Seguin saw it, not an insane ball or anything, but broke a line of defense and got onto it. And Karaman attacked the space that Bachmann was sort of vacating on that. And Bachman gets his head up, plays a nice ball across, and then I don't even know how Karaman scores that. There's like two guys draped over him, and he just kind of slides in and like places it right into. That's what I mean. It's like there's times where you're like he doesn't look like he's a great like, and there's times he just like scores the most like ridiculous finishes. Like really, I mean,
that's a Toronto finish in his prime.
I'm glad he's still here. I know there were some questions about him potentially leaving in the summer, and I know he's not the sexiest player we've ever had, or like and people being like, oh, thank God Karaman's still around. But like, dude, this season too, he's really continued to step up and like just be a pretty consistent producer of goals when we need it, and like that was a hell of a finish, and probably like one of the silkiest pieces of offensive play we've had in terms of just kind of a quick 1-2-3 action, like really well worked. So, yeah, 3 of the 4 goals in this game were not super impressive. This one was, I think, a little bit better in terms of the build up and whatnot.
We pushed on for a third goal, didn't get it, but I think overall, I think most fans could be happy with that second half, considering how we went down to nothing inexplicably within seconds, and so it kind of, in a small way, feels like a win, but obviously it's not. But it's positive. I think it's positive and offensive action from our team under Van Wonderen is something we've been looking for. We got it against a decent opponent in Hamburg, who was a top 10 team. So, yeah, I think there's good things to take away from it. It's on the road, a good opponent, down 2-0. And you find a way to claw back. And this is all we want as fans, is the team to show fight. And especially do it on the road. You got to give kudos to Van Wonderen and the team for clawing their way back and getting a point when they probably shouldn't have gone down 2-0. I mean, overall, I guess it's a good score, I guess. But I don't know. Maybe we lost it.
No, yeah. I mean, look, down 2-0 on the road at halftime. And down 2-0 pretty badly, once again, in terms of like just really, I mean, you shot yourself in the foot. So for them to not continue to collapse in the second half and come out and stay competitive and find a way to claw back, I think was super positive. Like I said, I was close to turning off the game, and I didn't because I thought they were still in it to some extent based on the way they were acting and performing and whatnot. So far from impressive overall, but like I said, this is a difficult 5-game stretch. If we can go on the road against top half teams and get results, I'm not going to complain about it. So yeah, good stuff overall.
Yeah, we can't get against the bottom half teams, so might as well try against the top half teams, right? The only worthy note of the rest of the game was there was a red card given to Stephen Laboué, the Schalke goalkeeper coach. There was a play late in the game where ball goes to the sideline, he throws a spear ball to the crowd, and the referee caught him, and you're out of here, got him out of there. He's like, what are you talking about? I was reading his notes, like, what? What'd I do? But he got the red nonetheless, and the game ended 2-2 there stats-wise. Hamburg's XG was 2.52. Ours was 0.96. I didn't feel it was quite that high for Hamburg.
So keep in mind, the XG of Königsdorfer's chance was probably close to 1.
Yeah.
Because he was around the goalkeeper before he shot that. So he was like a basically empty net right in front of it. So I'm assuming that's where like a decent chunk of it came from, was literally just from that one goal scoring opportunity. And it was probably a lot closer overall. But yeah, we definitely look, we only had 2 on target shots, I think, the entire game, which were our 2 goals. So I mean, despite being much better in the second half in terms of the possession and some of the areas we were getting into, we actually still weren't creating that many like fantastic opportunities. So
Richter led the way with 6 shots in the game. Takarman had 3 of the most for us. Possession 50-50, not surprising there. We had more passes than they did. Both teams fairly accurate. Even overall, though, nothing too much to complain about in this game. I thought Merkin started out very shaky. It seemed like he was getting beat one-on-ones early on. I don't know if it was Koningsdorfer or who it was, but he adjusted as the game went on and got better and better, I thought. For the most part, I thought the defense was good. Midfield was good. Bullet, again, just proven to be a really good player. I'll give you my 4 takeaways. You can tell me if you have the same, different ones, and other thoughts of the game. But Paul Seguin, I gave a green rating, a good rating. I thought he was really good in this game again. Obviously got set up the game tying goal when Bachmann found Karaman. So I thought it was another good performance by him. Häkkinen, gave a neutral score because it was up and down. Like, had some bad moments, had some good moments as well. Younes, I think, same thing, where he had some really good plays, got the goal, had some bad giveaways as well. So he was like up and down for me. And then my 4th takeaway, my man of the match. I'm curious of your thoughts, but Bullet, I thought he was good from beginning to end. He wasn't getting beat for pace. Defensively, he did well. Offensively, he was involved, got crosses in. Didn't get any goals or assists, but I thought he was excellent in this game. That's me. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I like the shout out. It's always tough for me to like give somebody a man of the match performance when I feel like I don't really notice.
We didn't win. Yeah.
No, like when there weren't like a lot of like standout moments, but I understand what you mean. Like, I mean, and that's what I was talking about earlier with Kruger and him is they're afterthoughts in the terms of they're performing so reliably that you're just assuming them to be in there and assuming they're going to do a good job, and they usually do. Yeah, he definitely seems more confident. There's moments where he has pretty nice feet in possession and can dribble around people and make sure he maintains possession and whatnot. So, no, yeah, I like that shout out. For me, I would probably go. Yeah, I don't know, maybe like Seguin or Caramon or something.
Okay.
But no, I like the shout out for Bullet.
It's funny. Many years ago, early days of the podcast, when Weltklasse Max Meyer was around, we said, "What do we say about him? We don't mention his name. He's probably doing a good job." And we didn't really hear Max Kruger's name in this match. That's because he was probably doing a good job. And it just him and Bullet just have this quiet confidence about them, and they've been growing as each match goes. So hopefully, some of these veterans can pay attention to them and kind of feed off of them. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Fallout after the match. Steven Baumgart, or as my phone likes to type, Baumgart, terminated as Hamburg manager. It seems like if you don't get a win against Schalke, you're that bad and you got to go. So, thoughts on that? Because I actually like him as a manager. Thoughts on Baumgart getting released by Hamburg?
So, I mean, first of all, I don't necessarily agree with you overall in terms of my feelings about him. I feel like he comes across as kind of a goofy figure. He's just like this kind of like aggressive, angry man in a hat on the sidelines constantly. He's always just kind of like yelling. I mean, like he just looks. I can't take him seriously, and I feel like I don't know. That being said, like I'm a little bit surprised by that. I mean, look. Hamburg obviously are a team like us that have ambitions to go back to the Bundesliga. So I'm sure in terms of like the goals for the club and whatnot, like them being in 8th place or whatever is not where they want to be. And they're probably not super happy with that. But they're in the top half of the table. They're not playing horribly overall. They're not upside down and like,
the best players gone,
Like the last 4 of the last 5 games, I mean, they're winless in 4 of the last 5. So I can understand that. Like it's a couple draws and a couple losses in a row. It hasn't been going well recently for them. But one of those games was against, I think, like Elversberg and somebody too. So like you can understand them losing some of those. And yeah, I don't know. So I thought it was a little bit harsh on him and them, given where the situation is. And that's coming from somebody who's not the stan that you are of Mr. Baumgart. So.
Fair enough. Let's see. Okay, so some takeaways from the game. Obviously, the comeback, I think, first of all, I think it's a great sign that we go down on our own accord, stupid mistakes, and find a way to claw back in this game. I think early in the Van Wanderen window or even early in the season, we go down 2-0. It's all right, we're done. Question is, how much are we going to lose by? And the fact that the team is starting to turn the corner in terms of the mentality and togetherness. We heard so much about this from the players, and we see it there in this game where they go down 2-0. They just kept clawing. I mean, honestly, if Silla stayed on side by 5 meters, we're looking at a 3-2 win at Hamburg possibly. I thought the performance was good in the second half, and that's a good hopefully a good momentum builder for the next 4 games, which is going to be really difficult. Am I putting too much stock into this comeback, or how do you feel about this comeback?
No, I mean, I think mentally it was positive, and I think probably said something positive about Wanderen as well, because I'm assuming he gave a pretty good halftime team talk and got them reorganized and whatnot. So, no, yeah, I liked it. I mean, I don't think it necessarily gets me excited for them overall. Like I said, we'll have to see how they perform in the next couple games during this more difficult stretch. I think I'm not saying we're going to learn a lot about them. I think we know that they're not a particularly great team at the moment. But the question is, like, okay, we've gotten through the first few games of Wanderen's tenure. We're at the point of him being the manager where he can officially kind of say, like, all right, he's settled in. Like, they've had, like well over a month or, of training sessions and whatnot with this guy. Like, I mean, we understand what he's trying to implement. So I think, yeah, the next couple of results now are going to kind of tell you whether or not it's been worthwhile or whatever. But it's also against, some tough opposition. So hopefully we can kind of survive that and then, use that as a leapfrog into the second half of the season.
Obviously, we talk about a lot of missed opportunities in this game by both teams, really. But there was table implications as a result of the game. We are in 13th place, and Hamburg are 8th place. They were 7th after the game, but I think Magdeburg or someone jumped over them. So now they are 8th place. We're 13th. Not bad. We're 3 places above where we were when we got Van Wanderen. But the rest of the league, look, the rest of the results from the weekend, I thought were pretty, I guess, favorable. So Friday you had Paderborn beat Nuremberg 3-2. Nuremberg's ahead of us in the table by 1 place. Köln beat Munster, so that's not great. Elfersberg beat Dusseldorf. Darmstadt beat Hanover. Karlsruhe again continues his roll.
Holding Hertha to a draw was nice. As
Yeah.
long as we finish against Hertha this season, I think it's a success because I just dislike Hertha strongly.
Yeah,
but
yeah. And Eintracht lost too to Kaiserslautern. That was a good result for us. But yeah, it just looking at the table overall, it's surprising to see who's at the top. You got Paderborn, Karlsruhe, and Elfersberg. It's like who nobody had that on the bringer card. It would be something amazing if you see Elfersberg and Paderborn will go up this year. Honestly, especially what Elfersberg's been doing here. But yeah, it's crazy. But Kaiserslautern is the team we got next. And I might have to change my prediction about us winning against them because I watched their last 5 games, whatever, and yeah, they've taken down some big hitters. They beat first place Paderborn 3-0. They beat Dusseldorf, who's top half table, 4-3. Drew Magdeburg, drew Nuremberg, beat Eintracht. So I mean, they got some good results here. But I'm gonna hold tight to that win against Kaiserslautern.
yeah, I don't want to be too doom and gloom. And as long as you're being the more optimistic of the two of us, which is usually the case, I'm fine. Because then I don't. Yeah, it was 5-4, right? So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, that's what I mean. None of these teams. I don't really expect us to win any of these games. I'm gonna predict one just because. Hey, you know what? Kaiserslautern's been on a run. Time to end it. Home game. Good momentum after that second half comeback against Hamburg. Let's make it happen.
The Dorfification of the Bundesliga. Yeah. Any predictions? Well, we know the prediction. How many goals? You think we're gonna get goals in this game? A lot of goals, or?
Yes, I think we will, and I'll tell you why. Because my entire prediction here is based on flipping the script. Kaiserslautern, good run, better defensive team than us. Both those things are going to stop. Goals from both Silla and Karaman and Tobias Moore. And I'm just going to start naming 5 players. It's 7-2 is the final score. No, I have no idea. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see. Who knows, man?
Yeah, who knows now? I'll go 2-1. I'll go 2-1 for Schalke. That's so. Yeah. All right. That's good. That's all I got, Jack. Unless you got anything else, I'm ready to get out of here.
Let's get out of here. Let's drown our sorrows after our respective NFL teams' performances this past weekend.
Oh, yeah. All right. Next game, I guess, is Kaiserslautern this weekend. We'll do a preview to that, and then, hopefully, and a review, and then a podcast next week. Hopefully, a victory Monday. We shall see. Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
At JMMangan, JMMangan on Twitter.
You can follow me at R_KHARMAN. More importantly, follow us at Shock America all across social media, even Blue Sky. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you follow us on YouTube and Twitch. Subscribe, like if you haven't done so yet. And then enjoy the rest of your week. Hopefully, your NFL teams are doing better than ours. So, for Jack and myself, catch you guys next week. Later on a Menjay.